My name is Ariya, and today I want to share something that changed my entire life. When I first started learning English, I didn't know where to begin. I had no expensive teacher, no fancy language course, and no one around me who could speak English fluently. Every time I tried to speak, my words got stuck somewhere between my thoughts and my tongue. I understood some words, I could recognize a few sentences, but when it came to expressing myself, I felt lost. I remember sitting alone in my room, watching English videos, trying to catch words here and there, but nothing really made sense. I would write down new words in a notebook, memorize them again and again, and still forget them the next day. It was frustrating. Sometimes I felt like maybe English wasn't meant for me. Maybe only people with better education or environment could speak fluently. But deep down, something in me refused to give up. One evening, I came across a small book in a secondhand store. On the cover, it said, Graded Reader Level 1. I didn't know what a graded reader was, but I flipped through a few pages. The sentences were short, simple, and easy to understand. I could actually read them without feeling lost. So I bought it. That one book was about a boy who dreamed big despite all his struggles. I took it home and decided to read one page every day. That's how my journey began. The first few days were slow. I read slowly, repeating the same lines many times just to understand. But soon I realized something surprising. I started to recognize patterns. The words that once felt strange started to make sense in context. I didn't have to translate everything into my own language anymore. The story was interesting enough to keep me curious, and I didn't feel bored like I did when studying grammar rules. That's when I understood the power of learning through stories. I didn't rush. Every day I would sit for 15 or 20 minutes, just me and my little book. I would read out loud, listening to how the words sounded. Sometimes I recorded myself and listened again. At first I laughed at how strange I sounded, but slowly I could hear the improvement. Reading became my daily ritual. It was no longer a task, it was a habit I looked forward to. After finishing my first graded reader, I felt proud. It was the first time I had finished reading an English book from start to end without giving up. That feeling gave me motivation. I went online and found more graded readers. Some were about mystery, some about love, some about travel and adventure. I started reading one after another. With each story, my vocabulary grew naturally. I didn't even realize I was learning new grammar structures. I was just enjoying the stories. Soon, I noticed that my mind began to think in English. When I saw something, the English word for it appeared automatically in my head. When I heard people speaking, I could catch their meaning easily. I no longer needed to translate every sentence. This was a huge change. For so long, I thought I had to memorize grammar and vocabulary lists. But the truth was, I just needed to live the language through stories. One day, I picked up a level 3 graded reader. It was longer and more complex. A few months earlier, I wouldn't have dared to try it, but now I felt ready. As I read, I realized I could understand almost everything. I could feel the emotions of the characters, imagine the scenes, and follow the story without any struggle. That's when I realized how much I had grown. My confidence was finally stronger than my fear. People around me began to notice. One of my friends asked how I learned to speak so naturally. I told her about graded readers, and she didn't believe me at first. She thought you could only learn English through classes or expensive courses. But I told her all I needed was curiosity and consistency. The more I read, the more I understood how English works. Reading graded readers taught me something even more powerful than language skills. It taught me patience. It showed me that progress is not always visible day by day. But if you keep going, one day you'll look back and realize how far you've come. There were times I felt tired, times I felt like I was moving too slowly. But every time I opened a new book, I reminded myself that small progress is still progress. After a few months, I started writing short summaries of the stories I read. At first, my sentences were simple, sometimes even wrong, but that didn't stop me. I wrote freely and then compared my writing with the sentences in the book. Slowly, I learned how to form correct and natural sentences. My writing improved, my speaking improved, and even my listening became sharper because I was familiar with how real English is used. I began to apply the same method in every part of my learning. When I watched movies, I listened for words and phrases I had seen in graded readers. When I read online articles, I noticed sentence structures that I had already practiced. The connection between reading and real life became clear. English was no longer just a subject. It became a part of my daily thinking. The most beautiful thing about graded readers is that they remove fear. Many learners feel scared when they see difficult words or complex grammar, but graded readers give you English that matches your level. They guide you step by step, making you stronger without overwhelming you. When I started at level 1, it felt easy. When I reached level 4, I could read faster and understand more complex ideas. It was like climbing a staircase. Every step took me higher. There were days I didn't feel like studying, but I still read at least one page. I told myself, even a little English every day is better than nothing. Sometimes I read while waiting for the bus, sometimes before going to bed. Slowly, that daily reading habit changed not only my English, but also my mindset. I became more focused, more patient, and more confident in learning anything new. I remember a moment that still makes me smile. I was watching a movie with English subtitles turned off for the first time. Normally, I would depend on subtitles, but that day I decided to try without them. To my surprise, I understood most of the dialogues. I laughed, I felt the emotions, I followed the story easily. That moment was magical. It was the first time I felt truly free in English. Learning through graded readers also improved my pronunciation. When I read aloud daily, my mouth got used to English sounds. I paid attention to rhythm and intonation. Sometimes I would mimic the way characters in audiobooks spoke. Gradually, I stopped sounding robotic. My voice became smoother and more natural. Speaking in English started to feel like singing a song I knew by heart. I learned that English fluency is not about memorizing thousands of words, but about using them naturally. When you see the same words in different stories, your brain automatically understands how to use them. For example, the word hope appeared again and again in different books. In one story, someone hoped for love. In another, someone hoped for success. I didn't need to translate the meaning anymore, I felt it. That's the magic of context. Sometimes I think back to that day when I found my first graded reader. It was such a small book, but it opened the biggest door of my life. If I hadn't picked it up, maybe I would still be struggling, still afraid to speak, still thinking English is too hard. But now I know the truth. English becomes easy when you make it a part of your world, not a subject to memorize. Now I want to share this secret with everyone who feels stuck. I know how it feels to think you're not good enough, to be scared of making mistakes, to compare yourself with fluent speakers. But trust me, fluency is not about perfection. It's about progress. Every page you read, every sentence you understand, every story you finish brings you one step closer. Graded readers helped me connect emotionally with English. They made me feel the language instead of just learning it. When I read about people's dreams, struggles, and victories, I not only improved my vocabulary but also learned about life. English became more human, more alive, more real. That connection made me love the process. Even now, I still read graded readers. Not because I need to, but because I enjoy it. Sometimes I revisit the stories I read years ago. They remind me of how far I've come. I can see the difference in how easily I understand everything now. It's like meeting an old friend who once helped you grow. With time, I started helping others too. When my younger cousin wanted to learn English, I gave her one of my old graded readers. She was scared at first, just like I was, but after a week she couldn't stop reading. Now she's improving every day. Seeing her progress reminds me why I started, to prove that anyone can learn English if they find the right way. Sometimes people ask me, Ariya, how long did it take you to learn English? And I always smile, because there's no single day when I woke up and said, now I'm fluent. Fluency came slowly, like sunrise. You don't notice the light spreading, but one day you realize it's bright everywhere. That's how English came into my life. If you're listening to this, I want to tell you something from my heart. Don't wait for the perfect time, perfect book, or perfect teacher. Just start. Pick a simple graded reader and read one page today. Don't worry if you don't understand everything. Don't try to memorize every word. Just enjoy the story. Let your curiosity guide you. When you read something interesting, your brain opens up naturally. You remember better, you learn faster, and you fall in love with the process. There will be days when you feel stuck. There will be moments when you think you're not improving. But remember, even slow progress is progress. Every page is building your future fluency. Every word you read today is planting a seed for tomorrow. Keep reading, keep believing, keep growing. When I think of the person I used to be, shy, afraid, and unsure, I feel proud of how far I've come. English gave me confidence, but the real gift was discipline and self-belief. Graded readers became my silent teachers, and every story became a new classroom. I didn't need anyone to push me because I was learning through joy, not pressure. Now, whenever I speak English, it feels natural. I can talk to people from different countries, understand new cultures, and share my ideas freely. English opened doors I never knew existed. It gave me opportunities, friendships, and freedom to express myself in ways I couldn't before. I often think that maybe learning English is like learning music. You don't start by memorizing all the notes. You start by listening, feeling, and repeating. Slowly, you get better. Graded readers are like that gentle melody that trains your ear and your mind until you can create your own rhythm. I know one day, someone out there will pick up their first graded reader, just like I did, and they'll begin their journey. Maybe they'll feel nervous or unsure, but they'll discover that every word carries power, every story carries wisdom, and every page carries progress. My name is Ariya, and this is my learning secret. I didn't become fluent overnight. I didn't have a perfect plan. I just had one small book, one big dream, and the courage to keep going. If I can do it, you can too. The secret is simple. Read, feel, and live the language. English isn't something you learn once. It's something you grow with every day. So start small. Keep your heart open. Let stories teach you. Because one day, without even realizing it, you'll wake up and find yourself speaking, thinking, and living in English. Naturally, confidently, and beautifully. That day will come just like it came for me. All you have to do is begin.